What up? What up? What up? Peace, blessings, glory, praise, and honor to the Most High. Happy Thursday. Yes, Friday is right around the corner. I'm excited. I'm exhausted, but I'm grateful to have to be with you guys for more evening. Shout out to you guys from all across social media, IG, Twitter, Facebook. I thank you for rocking with us, for having the conversations, the comments. Um, Tonight is a special one. I'm looking forward to this conversation between me and the panel tonight. Before we go into it, I got to give my flowers out. My poets, my writers, my artists, content creators, much love to you. Special shout out to my members, Miss T, um, Mad Mystic, Prodigal. Salutes to you. I appreciate the love. Uh, a lot has transpired over the last couple of weeks, and your thoughts and your prayers they have taken me a long way mentally. I appreciate you, and we're going to continue to push this. Tonight, we got to talk though. Hopefully, we can really break this down to where not only I get something out of it, but you get something out of it. It's a conversation that has been spread far and wide and thin all over YouTube and in any space or crevice that you can imagine it being spoken on. Monogamy, and not just monogamy, but monogamy amongst men. I don't know if this is like a rich person thing or if this is something that most people just generally go back and forth over. But I made a post, and well, I'm going to explain that here shortly. I want to go ahead and bring some of my people up here. Make sure you show them some love. Check out their work. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. Right now, we got Jason in the building. We got Christy in the building. I still have a couple folks that's going to pull up. So just bear with me. We're going to get to the meat and potatoes of all of this here real soon. Jason, Christy, what's up? Happy Thursday. Hold on. Wait a minute.
There we go.
Hello.
Christy's in the house. What's up, girl?
What's going on, Jason? How are you doing?
If I were any better, I'd be twins.
I know that's right. Well, they need to clone you anyway. Let's go.
I don't know if the world can handle two of me, though. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, same here. Same. Good to see you, Mel.
Same. Hey, the weekend is upon us. I'm looking forward to this time off. I know it goes fast and it's very fleeting, but I can use that extra 8 hours.
I understand.
There you go. Hold up. We got one of our other guests in the building. E, Ian Williams. I got you, bro.
How you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
Good,
What's up,
good,
Ian?
good.
How you guys doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good, good.
Good.
We're gonna go. All right, all right. Um, before we get into the topic at hand, I want everybody to kind of just go around and just introduce themselves to the people who might not be familiar with you. We'll start with hey, why not? Um, Jason, I'm gonna go ahead and do you the honors first, since you're one of the longest that's been on here. You're pretty much a vet now.
I appreciate that. Like I said, like Melvin said, my name is Jason Matthews, and I am a relationship and leadership coach. Currently, I work with men 35 and older who struggle to maintain long-lasting relationships and show them how they can use their masculinity as a way of being able to attract the woman that they desire and create a relationship that is long-lasting to create a series of outcomes in a life they both desire.
My name is
So,
Christy. Oh, I'm sorry.
oh no,
I'm sorry, Jay.
I was
No.
gonna say I'll pass the mic to you, Christy.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. My name is Christy, and I am an autistic mom, and I also am an activist and advocate. I'm an international author and a poetess, and I do a lot of history. So I've done my history on chakras, crystals, and gemstones, how they help you to heal, as well as colors and what they mean and how they provoke emotions or they're able to, depress them. So I work with people with an energy.
Nice, nice. So I'm Ian Williams. I'm 18. I'm getting into the e-commerce business with a whole bunch of online sales stuff, and also looking into house flipping, so real estate investing and developing.
Mm,
But outside of that, that's pretty much me.
nice.
Well, let me say this. I thank you for responding and answering to the call, especially as swift as you did. You guys might not be familiar with the backstory, but it pretty much ties into tonight's discussion. So I made a post on Threads a few days ago, maybe about a week ago, and the question was, are men solely monogamous because of lack thereof options? Would they remain faithful if given more space to go outside of the relationship, if they were presented that opportunity? Because so my reason for asking is because in different spaces, and I have a ton of responses that I got from this question. The majority says, you know, that men are only as faithful as their options. And then there's other layers that were included in the responses. Ian was one of those who gave one of those responses. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing what he has to say on this, especially being at 18. Your response to this at that age told me something a little more than I expected or anticipated. But um, where do I want to begin with this? We can start, actually, matter of fact, let's start with you, Ian, and then we'll go to Jason, and then we'll go to Christy, because I really want to know how Christy feels about this as well.
All right. Yeah. Well.
If you are,
Yeah. Yeah. By all means. I mean, based off of the question that you asked, I kind of felt like it's really limited now for men, and I kind of feel like a certain, like, I don't know how to word this. I feel over time it's kind of how men have evolved. Like all the warlords, kings, emperors, etc., they all had more than one woman, right? And it's kind of led into what it is now, whereas most celebrities or rappers or etc., you'll always see them having multiple women around them. So it's like, if once you get to like a certain high status or value as a man, I feel like that opportunity presents itself, especially considering that most women want the flashy lifestyle and all the other things that come along with it. So that's kind of where I came up with it from. So
want to make sure I had a sip of coffee before I attack this one. So, as far as monogamy goes, I really appreciate where you're coming from, Ian, because when you look at relationships and you look at status and you see that certain statuses bring to it certain opportunities, the question I have to ask is, yes, you have those opportunities, but do you have to act on them? And is it right to do so? Because you've got hypergamy, which is the most amount of women gravitating towards the fewest amount of men because of their status, the status, opportunity, the lifestyle that it affords. But also you have to look at what that does, because you have a much higher rate now, more than ever, of females who are dissatisfied, who are depressed, who are dealing with emotional issues, who are dealing with mental health issues, who are feeling alone and are having to now deal with the fact that they don't have someone that they can rely on. And this is a really strong point for monogamy, because it's more than just having options. It's actually not about having options at all. It's about creating stability. And this is a big part of masculinity. True masculine men create stability. The argument about monogamy is juvenile, because it's about who has the most, who can get or claim the most. That's child play yard talk. When really you should be talking about, how are we going to create something that outlives us? How are we going to create a legacy with our young, who are going to go on to become better than we were, to create a society or contribute to a society that is going to become better than what we had? You can't do that when you're focused on the next chick you're going to screw, or how much of a body count you have. That requires grounding and stability. And I think that this is something that really it's not being talked about enough. I'm going to go on with this more, but I want to be able to give Christy her due as well.
I'm going to feed off of you, Jason, because you opened it up to a wider conversation about options and stability. And when me as a woman, I'm going to look and I'm going to say, okay, no, I don't want to have somebody who, like you said, is unstable, who displays characteristics in which there's no leadership, no self-control, and being able to be in a relationship with one person. And as we go forward, there's more that I'd like to say on it. I just wanted to get the bare bones out there as women, that it is hard, because we are looking at men that there's more women than there is men. And so that also has been one of those things that, okay, Jason, we're gonna okay, I see you. But yeah, so when I was always, hearing that, yes, there's more women than men or whatever. But even with that, like I said, that if a man is going out to look for a good time and he has status, and I don't want to really go into people who are rappers and things like that, because it'll go back to that segment that y'all did last Thursday. And last Thursday was very powerful. Ian, if you don't get a chance, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, to go back to, because these conversations now have more depth on where we're going with this between men and women. So, Mel, I'm gonna hand it back to you so that way we can keep this rotating.
So let me frame this the best way I can. I don't look at social status per se as the measuring stick for where and how a man decides to exercise his ability to lay with multiple women at once. I don't think you have to necessarily be rich to do so. There are certain characteristics and traits within a specific type of guy, and you could correct me if I'm wrong when we come back to you, Christy, but there's a specific set of things that a guy has or possesses that draws certain women in. And like you just said, there's more women than there are men. So looking at it from a space where, all right, so if that's the case, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong here in terms of what you go for, what you don't, but from what I've observed, the majority, not all, but the majority of women go after a specific type. But that specific type of guy is segregated from the the base of what men really present and offer, which may not necessarily be a six-figure thing. They might just have a regular 9 to 5. To fast forward through this, someone who has the charisma, who has the physique, the personality, or just the social instinct to be able to connect with multiple at once, they, I don't know, it's tricky because it's like you put a kid in a candy store with their favorite stuff and you tell them you can have anything you want. Most of the time you're going to stick your hand in everything. But what you said, Jason, makes a lot of sense, and I wholeheartedly agree and believe that we should be trying to build something worthwhile for our legacy and things of that nature moving forward. We shouldn't be out here just spreading our seed as we see fit. Now you have the option to do it, but I don't know. I'm conflicted about it. If I was put in that position and I had 10 lined up right now, but I had the woman that I wanted right next to me, would I step outside of that? Now, no. 15, 20 years ago, I would say you would probably be in trouble. But that's because I wasn't thinking logically. I wasn't thinking from a spiritual place. And because of that, I got myself involved with a lot of different scenarios that didn't bear the fruit that I wanted. So that's where I'm gonna leave it off right there. I'm gonna pass it back to Ian.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with what everybody said, especially with Jason. But I feel like when it comes to if you have the opportunity or not, like I feel like because what you said about creating a legacy and all the effects that it can cause towards women's mental health, et cetera, right? Like I agree with that. However, I think that if you're in a position to be able to have different amounts of women, like as long as you're open and honest with them, they know what they're getting themselves into, right? Whereas, like, if you were trying to be secretive about it and not tell them, that's to me, that's two completely different things. Like, if you get into a relationship with somebody and you tell them just like straight away, like, yeah, I really like you, like, I'm gonna take care of you, etc. But I'm still every now and then probably gonna go like do whatever, right? The woman, she has complete control over whether she decides to stay or not, right? So that's my opinion on it. I agree with what you said 100%. It can cause negative effects towards everybody involved, but I feel like as long as the person is open and honest, then the woman had, like I said, the woman has complete control over whether she decides to stay or leave, or maybe just test the waters, for lack of better words. But I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I have to say, I really respect the way that you are presenting your arguments. I think that they're very thoughtful, and I think that you've put a lot of consideration into how you're presenting this, and I really appreciate that. And I agree that we as people have the freedom to do what we want, and especially if there is consent, if the intent is given and the consent is there, and people are like, let's just do it. You know what? It's exciting when you're able to have those kinds of relationships, when you're able to just go off and say, you know what, I have the freedom of being able to do this. It is exciting. I've lived it. I know what it's like. So at the same time, when I look back and I'm like, God damn, the decisions that I made. If I knew now what I knew then, I'd probably go back in time and kick myself in the ass for acting that way. Only because I realized that was time wasted. That I could have been doing something great, and instead I was just screwing around. And it's really no different than masturbation. It produces the exact same outcome, except it's involving another person. And there's a bunch of ways that we could go down this rabbit hole, I'm sure. But what I do want to say is that when you are in a relationship, I look at what the fundamentals of humanity are, and I've identified three of them. You've got procreation, building community, and developing moral worth. Procreation has to do more than just making babies. This is also the cultural and moralistic imprint that families put on their children, which they then take to other people who help them build a community and develop them even further through the interactions with others to figure out what is most important and how to use their understandings with each other to create what I call an ever advancing civilization. The ability to continually progress itself and better itself. And then developing moral worth is just the ability to do good, the ability and the desire to do good. And you take all three of those things in, you've got a society that doesn't just survive, it thrives. And it requires having a sense of groundedness, having that sense of stability in order to happen. And I think that monogamy is a great way of being able to provide that. That being said, relationships that don't work, there needs to be hard conversations had if they don't work. And then, yes, there's the freedom to be able to part separate ways and then do something else. Monogamy isn't a sentence where once you're married, you stay married. Not at all. It's more the fact when you are in a relationship, you are dedicating yourself to that relationship because you know that the outcomes are so much larger than you. And in your job, especially as a man, your job is to lead. And leaders are really those people who serve. So really the dictate of men is to be of service. Of service to what? Not just themselves. Self-serving doesn't really do anything. Being of service to those that look to them for that stability, their family, the people around them. And the more stability that they provide, the more stability they're seen to have, which means they create more and more attraction with other people. And I think this is really an important thing to really consider. I do know where you're coming from, Ian. And yes, the excitement, especially when you're young, it's almost irresistible. In many cases, it is irresistible. And the desire to really experience many things, it really takes over. And I think it's important to be able to understand that it's also extremely important to understand what the consequences of doing that are and how to go about creating the discipline needed to create the best outcome, not just for you, but for others that you are interacting with. And I yield the mic.
Okay. From that perspective, we do know, and we can go through history and see exactly where things may have gone wrong. When it comes to monogamy and in relationships, and see what has gone right. There have been many great people. And let's talk about the average day person who is tempted to do something, yes, because they're looking with their eyes, they're thinking with not the right muscle. And so, then it becomes one of those things that, okay, it's hard. Now, there's nothing wrong if you are in a relationship and you see a beautiful woman, you say hi or whatever the case may be. Okay, that's just natural things that go on. But if he is so tempted to be uprooted out of a relationship to get into something else, then that woman also has to say to herself, okay, that was the wrong guy for me. And I understand it. I saw the flags. And this is what's going on. This is what I need to do to change my mindset. When Ian brought up the fact that if it's consensual, if the guy says, hey, look, let's get together tonight, but I may dip out I may dip out on you, then I wouldn't consider that so much of a relationship. I wouldn't put that in the category of a relationship. Because then that means what? That we're just being able to get together, but that connection is only limited. And if that woman chooses to deal with that guy, once again, what is she getting out of it? Because it might be a monetary thing. It might be somebody that she can just be able to lay with or whatever. And then that would be on her if she catches any feelings for that person who's going to dip out on her. In a regular, normal relationship, it is definitely going to be difficult. There is definitely going to be times you and your partner may not be agreeing, and the guy is going to be like, oh, okay, well, you know what? If you're going to give me so much grief or you're not going to be a part as much as I'm doing things, then it's going to be easily to be led astray. In that, and that's what creates where we should go for the future. Because if you're not good for each other, yes, get away from each other. But a lot of times what's happening is that the guy will also be texting the woman, and it's supposed to be a clean breakup. And like we saw yesterday on that film, that young lady who was telling her story, she ended up being with somebody, and what did she do? He thought that he could sit up there and talk with her or be around her, go home that night, and he gets set up. He's thinking something different. So if we're not being honest, first and foremost, with ourselves and saying, you know what, I can't do monogamy, be honest. And secondly, if you're telling a woman or whatever that, hey, I'm going to keep my options open, but I'm coming to see you, that he can't confuse the rules as a relationship with her and make her feel as though she should be there for his needs and different times. I've seen it. I've lived it, where I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. Like, if you're going to set the rules out like this, and then you're constantly after me, then now it's like more of a relationship. In which, if that's what you want, then you got to cut out what you're doing. So that's why I've learned right now to take my time, and there will be the right person for me. And it's not about money, because I actually didn't want to date anybody rich, because I wanted to build something together with a man. And unfortunately, the mental capacity for the ones that I was with, it was short in terms of being with somebody else. But they still wanted to hold on and have that relationship with me. So I've learned that, you know what, that's just what you can't. That's not what I want. Let's put it there. So I know what I want, and I know what I need. And it's cool to have somebody that's taller than me, or whatever attributes. That way I can say, yes, I can cling with you. But honestly, if I'm not dealing with you on a mental level, the emotional, the spiritual level, as well as the physical, then forget about it. I'd rather have the whole package or nothing at all. I yield the mic. Hi, Aaron. Hi, Wicked Low.
Yo, what's
Hi,
up?
Christy.
What's up, everybody? Peace, brother.
Real quick, because I want to catch them up. I'm gonna pass it. I'm gonna pass it to Aaron and then Low in the order that we came in, and just continue that. But basically, the question was: are men only monogamous because of the lack of options that they are presented, and would they remain monogamous if they had the opportunity to keep the person that they're with and step outside of it, and they had that space to do it? Is that something that the majority of men are actually in right now in terms of the dating market, or just in general?
Sure. So I can chime in on that. And I think that I mean, this is going to be the perfect non answer that nobody wanted to hear, right? But it depends on the person. It's like, I don't think we can make a sweeping generalization of men in general about who would or wouldn't practice monogamy if they had the option to. I think that is a case by case basis according to character, right? So I think it sounds like the part that I missed was Ian's take. Nice to meet, by the way. Um, where maybe somebody could catch me up on what he said, because it sounded like there was a discussion of if there's consent and maybe boundaries set up, that it would be kosher, right? Am I misconstruing some of it?
I mean, I can jump in and basically tell you what I said, if that's all right with everybody. So basically, Jason brought up the point of like if something about the effects of the negative effects that it can have on both partners, but more so the woman, if a man is with her but also with other partners. And to an extent, I completely agree, right? However, I feel like if the man is open and honest from the start, like, hey, I like you, I want to be with you, but you know, every now and then I'll go out with my boys and something may or may not happen, whatever. If you're okay with that, fine. If not, then, it was nice to meet you, like, blah, blah, blah. Right? So as long as there's, like, a just straight up telling them, I guess, like, what they're getting into, for lack of better words, then she has complete control over whether she decides to stay or not.
Okay. So yeah, there's some stuff to unpack there, right? I think for the most part, imagine this, right? Like I do believe in being able to practice boundaries and expectations with partners, right? So like the issue that Ian raises is kind of like a sort of ongoing pseudo consent, right? Like you knew what you signed up for when we got into a relationship. You are getting their consent in advance of the thing happening without necessarily knowing what the thing is yet. I think that personally, I would practice a little bit tighter boundary setting. And like, should a situation like that come up, it would be more of a discussion with details. Like, hey, I'm envisioning this scenario happening. How do you feel about that? The thing is, I say that coming from a place of having had a little bit of experience with, like with relationship encounters bordering on multiple people. And I would say that in my experience, it unilaterally always implodes. Now, that's not to say that somebody could handle it better. Like somebody might be more equipped to better meet the emotional needs of multiple people at once. I think that I certainly wasn't capable of it at the time. And I think that once that avenue was afforded to me, it was sort of like opening Pandora's box, right? Like squishing the toothpaste out of the tube, it wouldn't go back in. Like once you break a maybe not like a rule of a relationship, but you push past a boundary that was there but never clearly specified, it can be very addictive and become like almost an insane pursuit of just to see how far you can push it. And I think that I hurt a lot of people in the process of doing that. And so if I could do it over again, I think that I would have practiced kind of what Christy was mentioning, where if you are looking for extra relationship pursuits, you should respect your partner well enough to offer them a clean break. I think it gets messy and complicated when you hit them with the opportunity to agree to a maybe or like some possible shortcoming in the future. Like I shortcoming is a strong word, right? Like if you already got the approval, I wouldn't necessarily say that you've done wrong. But to me, I know that I have the discipline to stick to a rule that was set for me by my partner. If I agreed to it, I'm not necessarily worried about maybe something happening in the future. If the opportunity came up, that would be something that I would then have an additional sit down to discuss. But coming from the place that I do, where I've explored some of those options, that wouldn't be something that I was currently interested in pursuing. So I feel like I was kind of a little all over the place as I'm getting acclimated to this conversation, but I yield. I'd love to hear what Wicked has to say about it.
Much appreciated. I actually agree with you. You know what I mean? To be real, I agree. To be honest, there's a lot of. You look around today. There's all types of as far as relationships go. Monogamy, the way I see it, is like if if I for my to myself, for example, if I'm liking a female, I'm digging a female from we a lot of times I give her the option, of course. We have that option. So a lot of times it may just be what they call a bump buddy, somebody you're close to, but you two are not really you're close, right? But and y'all both have that understanding that it's just not a relationship. So as far as being monogamous goes, um, I've seen it to where I do believe in it. So it's like, you can have the discipline to just be with the woman you're with. Yes, there's always going to be a temptation, but it depends on the person and how strong their mind is. Not to say it's necessarily weak, but we all have regrets and things that we've done in our past. You know what I'm saying? People that we've hurt, as Aaron said. Um, but again, there's so many different situations because they have relationships where people are monogamous, but there's three people, there's one dude and two females, and they all got kids together. You know what I mean? There is relationships where there's multiple, and then they're not in that own circle. But as far as it being one person or one, it can happen. I mean, everybody has a choice. It depends on, as you said, it depends on that particular person. You know what I mean? It all boils down to, what y'all decide. If you really want to be with this woman and y'all really, really like each other, you guys sort of say fall in love with each other, y'all, do what it do. And you can sometimes you can't work it out, sometimes it can't be worked out. But when you two are clearly both for each other, and you both are giving the needs that each other needs, or wants or whatever, when you're both meeting that, there should be no reason to step out. And if that's and if that's your intention, it's like Chrissy said, then I believe in giving a person a clean break. You know what I mean? But if you kind of know, if okay, this is what you opted into, then there was really no relationship. It was just, to me, it wouldn't be a relationship. It's just a friendship. You know, this is pretty much a friendship. Like, okay, I'm here with you, but I do have tendencies to do this and that. It's not a real relationship. You feel me? So, I mean, that's just as far as my own experiences and things of that nature, and just observing the world and people as it is. Um, that's just pretty much it. You know what I mean? As far as from my perspective, from what I see.
So, two things.
I see lip
You put
movement,
yourself
but
on
I
mute,
don't hear
man.
no noise. I don't hear
It's
no
like two
noise.
things, and then you went on mute. It's
I
like
see
the
your
best
mouth
kept
moving, but I
secret.
don't hear no noise.
It's the cliffhanger. Like,
It
wait a minute, what
never
is he going to
fails.
say?
I'm going to give you the most important information you'll ever hear.
It never fails, I swear. Nah, what I was gonna say was, by definition, we contradict the definition by the idea that you can have a relationship with one person but step outside of the relationship and sleep with multiple people. If we're looking at it from a Webster's version of what it means, then you're actually cheating. But for whatever reason, it's romanticized as if sleeping with multiple people or having the ability to do it while you have a partner brings more value to the person that you are as a adult male, which I truly believe is false. I don't buy into it. You can have the option to do it, but I disagree with this idea that you can love a person, which was going into my next point, which I was going to ask: can a man love a woman and still sleep with other people while he claims that he loves one person? I don't believe you can do that. I do think that it's very responsible for someone to say, like, yeah, um, I care about you, I like you, and things of that nature, and we have a good time, but every so often I'm I want to scratch my back. I need something outside of this. You okay with that? That's not that's polyamory, or it's borderline. That's not, and I don't know. It's real tricky because it's almost as if we're stretching reality to fit and conform to our own desires and wants and needs. So let's say there wasn't any laws or any rules or any established doctrine that spoke specifically against doing these type of things. We're pretty much just outlaws out here running around doing whatever we want and making up our own rules. And I get it. It's fun while looking from the outside and you have the opportunities to do it, but you're not really thinking about the end goal, the long-term effects of intermingling with different spirits and different souls, what comes with uh pair bonding and damaging your psyche and things of that nature. There's a lot of chemical effects that come along and play a role in this. Uh folks who folks who have the ability to do this, in my opinion, have undoubtedly created a lot, if not a majority of the chaos that we have now. This back and forth between men and women, men ain't shit, women ain't shit, this, that, and the third. I think a lot of that comes just from this totem pole, who is who and who is able to do this and do that, and we gravitate to this versus that, and we kind of isolate a certain group of people because they just don't fit into the mold. I think a lot of this comes from that. Respectfully, if it was given to me, I would rather have one person that I could spend my life with. And there's a number of reasons for that, right? Like, for one, STDs for starters, but even just from a moral standpoint, like there's other consistencies or inconsistencies that follow behind dealing with different people on a regular basis. You're getting their personality traits. You're dealing with people that had exes before you that might be crazy as hell, that might still love them. You're dealing with people who are manipulative and don't tell the truth. Like Ian said, you're talking about a small percentage of people who's going to tell you, look, I'm sleeping with multiple people. You can take it or leave it. That's up to you. Everybody ain't doing that. Most people are sneaky links. Where do you think that term come from? I was just watching a video earlier today where the guy jumped out of a 3-story apartment complex because the woman husband popped up on him and he jumped out the window and hauled ass. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, okay. I feel like the maybe one of the bigger reasons why it's tempting, I would say, for probably people, I guess, my age and around my age, is because of the excitement it brings. And that's kind of just, like how it works, especially because my I guess generation, for lack of better words, is just, it's all based off of drama. Everybody loves like parties and hearing about this and doing this and et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like that's a big part of it, and I also feel like another reason why I would say mostly guys get dragged into it is because it's a way to what's a way to put this? I would say probably like understand women better in a sense, because if you're like just with one person for a long period of time and like you figure them out, and let's say like for like you guys break up, right? You start talking to this other person a while after, and everything to you just seems like completely different, right? So I feel like it's kind of one of those things where it's excitement, it's temptation, and it's kind of you figuring out who you want to be, who you want to be as a person, but also who you want to be with, and the things you're willing to tolerate, I guess, but also like understanding how certain things work at the same time.
So one thing I will say is, um, your perceptions, Ian, are very correct, and it's not just your generation. Every generation that has had men, and they make up almost half of the population. It's 51% women, 49% men. 49% men. Last time there was any kind of census done that I remember, but there is this desire among men when they get to a certain age of wanting to experience things. And it's that desire for experience, along with I would say a lack of discipline and a desire to do more exploration than to really understand um, how their actions are going to affect them and others. There's a sense of invulnerability or a lack of understanding of the more consequential experiences that were effects that can happen um, when you are at a young age. Once you get to a certain age, I find that when I turned 40, I started having more of a sense of what is life going to look like in the next 40 years. I'm going to be 80 years old. I'm going to be elderly. What is life going to look like then? I've got there is a ticking clock with the amount of time that I have to be effective. What am I going to do with that time? And before that, I just didn't give a shit. I was either partying it up, or I was with women, or I was taking advantage of relationships because I did not have the best outlook in them, and breaking hearts and taking names and being just an all-around asshole in some ways, but also living an exciting life that I wanted to live. And I look back at that, and it would be easy for me to say I was an idiot back then, but also I learned a lot. I experienced things and I learned things, and I'm grateful for those experiences because it has allowed me to turn around and say, how can I use this as a tool? And the best thing that can be done is, in your youth, it's important to embrace that ability to explore. It's also important to embrace the idea that your actions and your interactions are going to have consequences, positive and negative, and to be responsible for the consequences that you have. The way that you interact with others, be responsible for that, and take responsibility for the ways that you interact with others. Beyond that, it's all just living life and desiring to fall in love with life and take that risk of living. And that's really all that really matters, as long as you know what the consequences are going to be for your actions. And I think the sooner we realize that our interactions, especially in relationships, are going to have a lasting impact, or have the possibility for a lasting impact for our generations to come, the ones that come after us, and how we have an opportunity, a very small window of time, to really implement and to mold them in a way that's going to cause them to desire a way of being able to make the world better than we ever could, and to instill in them a set of values where we want them to be better than us. We want them to elevate in ways, and to create things that we couldn't even think possible, because of our own limitations and the lack of limitations they have that we had. So I think that it is great that the young people, regardless of the generation, it's going to happen. Because I guarantee in 20 years, man, you're going to look back and you're going to say, what is wrong with these young people? And it's going to happen every single generation. It's always going to happen. And being able to maintain the idea that you were also once that young, and you made decisions, and you had consequences, and because of those, you were able to shape your life in a certain way. I yield the mic because I said a lot, and none of it all. I'm sure that not all of it made sense.
Okay. Well, yes. As a woman, I think that absolutely, because as a teenager, it's like, yes, you should not necessarily, I would push for, sexual encounters, but, okay, be aware of what you're doing and all that so you can find out who you want to be with. But I also say you got to know who you are. And so in the teens and 20s, early 20s, I know even for a lot of females that they wanted a relationship. And the guys were taking that relationship and they were like, okay, I'm going to be with you. But they tend to wander, you know what I mean? And then something happens and then boom, okay, now he's got 2 children by 2 different women, the one he's supposed to love and the one that he said he fell in love with. And I think also the term falling in love and falling in lust is 2 different categories that we should explore as well. Because a lot of people, when you said, Mel, can a man love a woman and then step out on her and be with somebody else? Well, somebody would say, yeah, like I love this woman and I love this woman. I love her because we talk about educational things like that. I love this one because she's funny and, I can be lighthearted and all that. And then, so, but I think that what happens is that word love is twisted because you can find somebody who has most of the traits that you like. There's going to be things that we do not like about somebody else. And so that's where we have to grow up and understand and be ready in a single world to say, if I get into a relationship, there are going to be things, no, I don't like. Okay. And for me, it's like, okay, why do you keep putting your socks right there when there's the, clothes hamper over here? It drives me freaking crazy. It could be somebody who sits up there and does too much joking around or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, okay, you need to take things a little bit more serious or whatever the case, I need you to do that. And so there's times where we have to understand we have to grow with each other. We have first by learning each other and knowing what we want and being able to say, you know what, this is the person I actually am in love with. I will do anything for, to ensure her well-being, her safety, the guidance that I can provide as a man, being able to say that. And again, there's a lot of times, not everybody, but there's a lot of times that women are more in that mindset earlier than men. And it's like, okay, what do we do with that? So it's talking about this, but understanding that polygamy is coming back. And unfortunately, there's so many people who, I guess they call it flowing or something, or being fluid or something, it's something of that nature, that term, which is the same thing that, I'm like, we make up different words, but it all means the same thing, that you want to go ahead and you want to step out. So therefore, you should not be looking for any relationship and letting it be no clear cut, I don't want a relationship. Now, if you change your mind and you've gotten to know that person, then you should be able to say, wait a minute, I'm catching feelings, and stuff like that. Can we talk about where we can go? And if that woman is like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm feeling this way too, and boom, it is about maturity. It is about discipline. It is about what exactly is going on for society. What are we leaving the legacy of? And right now, the legacy is that relationship term has been redefined because a lot of people rather be in long-term relationships than even marriages at times. And you see them, doing so well and flourishing, but the marriage part. But the monogamy is coming back and it's strong. And there's plenty of women that I've heard, that everyday women and, people that were on television who were saying, that were influential to people, to the society, kids, young kids, teenagers, and everything else growing up. That was I remember one that I'm not going to name her name, but she's a singer, and she said, I think that monogamy would be great, and we need to bring that back because sometimes I'll be too tired, and he wants to do something. And so therefore, it'd be like a, good friend of mine, and they can go ahead and, they can do it, and but we all be a unit, and so, like I said, times that have changed have redefined things, and some things people think they're redefining that is old. So it's just, what do we want our future to look like? What do we want to be a part of? And what is the youth of today? And I'm grateful that Ian is on here, how they're going to see long term, as far as what future is it going to look like when it comes to monogamy, when it comes to men, and their way of thinking about what monogamy is. So I think that that's where I stand on, the question, what is it going to be for the younger people? Because for me, I like monogamy. I think that it's so much better because it's the challenging times, when you can stick in there is when you really know what's going on and what person, you can be with, and it just reconfirms that this person knows who they are, as a man. He's not, beating his chest and saying, I am man, but he also understands that he's leading. And I don't mind, him leading because that's what a man does. But so it's going to be about how the terms are defined as well for the next generation. I yield. Thank you.
I just want to say that I do have to get going. Ian, it was a pleasure meeting you, and I hope that you return. It was great being able to interact with you on this.
It was nice meeting you too.
Take
Nice
care,
seeing-
Jason. Have a
Nice
good
seeing everyone
evening.
else on here.
Have a good one.
Will,
Take care.
thanks so much for having me back. Melvin, thank you for having me back on. I appreciate everyone. Aaron, take care, guys.
No problem, bro.
Shoot, am I up?
So we leaving off of Jason going to Aaron. Go ahead, bro. You got it.
Sure. So, I just wanted to say that I totally get where Ian's coming from. Being, I don't know how old you are, man, but I can relate to being young and having this pursuit of women being an exciting thing, and like you also can justify that too by saying this is to understand women better. It's like I get it. Like I genuinely do feel like my experiences in dating and relationships have contributed to a better understanding that I wouldn't have had without it. It's Jason bounced right as I was mostly just gonna almost parrot verbatim what he was saying, because I think that Jason really had it nailed down when he talked about the like a time for exploration and consequence. Like we know, for example, that teaching abstinence in schools doesn't work because teenagers are horny and they're gonna do what they want regardless of what they're told, right? I think that like depending on where you're at, you may very well be in a position where you need that exploration and experience. It's like that's going to be what it takes both for you to feel satisfied with the level of experience you have, and also to get an opportunity to experience genuine consequences from it. And I don't say that to be threatening or ominous, right? That's just what happened for me. It's like I feel like the experience that many young men are after is kind of a double-edged sword, because it absolutely is what some people need, and too much of it will make you chronically unsatisfied. It will put you in a position of having multiple babies with different mothers, STDs, all the regular risks and stuff. So it's like that education comes at a cost, and you're not necessarily better for it at the end. It's kind of a situation of knowing when enough is enough and not becoming too locked in the pursuit. I think that Christy made a good point about falling in love versus falling in lust, because I think that if I could correlate that back to what Mel said, which I took him to mean that a man can't truly love a woman if he's willing to step out on her, and I think I can abide that. Like I feel like I've had experiences where I thought I loved someone and then proceeded to do them dirty. And then with the subsequent relationships I had where I discovered a deeper, more real love, I realized that I never felt that way about the person that I thought I did. I feel like you can care about somebody very deeply, but I do feel like it's hard to break trust with someone that you do genuinely love. And I'm gonna kind of back this up with like a little bit of personal experience here. So I come from a family torn apart by infidelity. It was like what instigated like a long sequence of events involving like step parents and childhood traumas and stuff like that. And so, being put through this traumatic parent split as a result of getting multiple people involved in the relationship, that was like the one rule I was never going to break, was I was never going to cheat, right? Because that somebody cheating ruined my life. And then I became a serial monogamist. I tended to stay in one-on-one relationships for a long time. And my longest one at that point, I became resentful of them for depriving me of my chance to explore. And I think that like people who talk about succumbing to temptation are deluding themselves. Like when I became resentful and I wanted that opportunity to explore, I didn't accidentally cheat. I facilitated every single step. I enabled it and sought after it. It didn't fall into my lap. Like I didn't make a mistake. I made a long series of intentional choices. So inevitably, I go about cheating for the first time, and it felt terrible. Like I was never more emotionally wrecked because of a relationship, knowing that I had done that to somebody I cared about. I broke the one rule I had for myself. So I have this experience of pursuing experience, having it blow up in my face, and not coming out on the other side a better person, right? Like all I learned was that I was a dirtbag who was capable of doing that to somebody. And so I think that ultimately I think the exploration phase is crucial, and the most important thing that you can do is just be honest and upfront with people about what you're after. If you want to explore, send it. You find the right person, and you personally feel like the exploring's through, then I would put put boundaries in place that communicate your commitment to them. And I feel like I pretty thoroughly threshed that out. I yield.
So, one thing I say is that we as people have, it's not everybody, right? So we all come from different families, different backgrounds. You know what I mean? Myself personally, um, it's kind of, I can say we want to say like, temptation, just temptation. It's just like, again, it's just how it's just as far as being the person you are is how you're gonna get through it. Because, for example, I had people that inspired me. For example, my parents, my grandparents. You know what I'm saying? My family, my mother's side family, the family that raised me. On my mother's side, you know, I was raised by manly men. Womanly women. Hard working. Family. But for example, my grandparents, they met in Belize young, and they stuck it out. My grandmother was a teacher in Belize. My grandfather became a merchant marine. He came over to the States and brought the family over. He didn't step outside. You know what I'm saying? They, as a unity, worked together and they raised my mother and her siblings. My father didn't have a father like that. So my father and mother met in high school. They didn't step out like that. They had issues, but they ended up reconciling and at a not at a very very young age, and they end up passing, and that was it. When my grandfather passed, my grandmother did not get into another relationship, even though she was up in the age, she didn't get into another relationship. When my father passed, my mother didn't talk to another man, even though she passed 18 months later. So I have that kind of look because that's who I looked up to as far as what I wanted. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of men without even seen. And I have friends that have never cheated, and there's plenty of temptation. But like for as far as that goes, so this is who you're looking up to and how you can see things. This society is like we're seeing a lot of broken families. Even in even when we was coming, there was still a lot of broken families. So people end up like a friend of mine. He never cheated on his wife, but he came from a broken family too. So after his relationship with his wife was done, you know what I mean? It's like you don't know how to feel about certain things and how women treat you. So he decided, so we decide to move on. But there is that, and it was always been around. It's just, if you find that one person, that's just even if you find them at a young age, and because there's people that do meet their loved ones in high school, in middle school, and they end up coming back together or end up being together the whole time and don't have that extra. You know what I mean? They live their life and they experience life together. You know what I'm saying? And then so there is that possibility. There is that happens still. You know what I mean? I still meet people today who actually go through that, and I'm like, that is what's up. That is awesome. Because I still see a lot of people who don't know what they want. You know what I mean? So experience of life is definitely important, depending on the person. If you find it and you find out when that's the right one, then great. If you don't, then all right, it's on to the next one. Let's see. And it's all about life. Life is about learning and understanding and observing, the thing that you're getting into, whether it be relationship, and of course there's love and there's lust. There's gonna be a lot of lust because there's a lot of women, no matter where you go. Um, it's just really depending on the person. Who do you have? Who are you looking at? You know what I'm saying? That inspires you to want to do. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times, a lot of men also we end up getting with women who are similar to our parents, our mother. I've seen that a lot too. A lot of times, we end up when you actually sit and look, the person a lot of times you get with is similar to your mother. You know what I mean? We look for that because our mother initially is our first love as a child. You know what I mean? Um, so that unconditional love, sometimes that's what we look for in the other person. Not to say per se we look, but a lot of times that's what happens. So all in all these things can happen. I agree with y'all and everything. It's just but the truth of the matter is, it can happen. Can men be monogamous? Yes. Can you love this? And don't be real. Today, a lot of people don't know what love is. But you know what I mean. So it's like love is kind of a hard thing to really discuss because most people think it's one thing, then they think it's another thing, then they think it's another thing. So some people think they're in love, but then they turn around and do something. And it might not be cheating. It could be worse than cheating. It could be, just the words they say, and that's proven to, okay, you don't really love me. So You know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely agree with but there's just so many different variables and everything else in this life. This is life. You know what I'm saying? There's a million possibilities that we can explore, and it all comes back. Yeah, so that's enough for me.
So we at the final stretch, right? And there was a lot of amazing viewpoints here that I absolutely love and agree with. Here's my concern and my issue. Like Greg said, and just like Lo just said, we don't have a great reference point in terms of who we should be looking to and listening to as a guide. You get in front of a TV or a telephone or any type of screen, and you see all of the glitz and the beauty, you see all of the fun parts and all of the excitement. And they talk philosophical, they get real raw with you. They tingle your spirit, they trigger your desires in your flesh, and they hit certain animalistic parts of who you are as a human being, but they tend to always leave or exclude the ramifications for the engagements that you decide to embark on. The mental breakdown that comes with trying to juggle multiple people, the different personalities of these women that you have to entertain or you have to maintain in order to keep a person satisfied and happy. Or what happens when you get caught by one person because of what you did with the other person. No one can predict another person's emotions or feelings, how one is going to respond to the decisions you decided to make for yourself. We all have the right and the privilege to do whatever we want. But as was stated here on multiple times throughout this show, there's consequences behind your decisions and your choices. And so the thing that bothers me is these spaces that promote and suggest that you get involved with polygamy and all of this different crap. You only telling the fun side of it. Matter of fact, forget I even said that. It's not fun. They dress it up as if it's fun. Sex is great. I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm so in love with it. It's my biggest addiction. My biggest addiction. And I've been suffering because of it ever since I was introduced to it. They don't talk about that part though. They don't tell you what it does to your soul and what it does to your productivity, how it distracts you from becoming the best versions of yourself, how it takes you from becoming the best of whatever field of work you're trying to embark in, how much money is removed from your pocket because your mind and your flesh is so distracted by the pleasures of the world They don't talk about that type of stuff. And it's a real travesty. It's heartbreaking. It's disrespectful. It's not true loyalty. It's not true red pill. It's not real fellowship. And I'm totally just, I don't even subscribe to it at all. Because in all honesty, just like YouTube, especially what you said, I've been where you are. It does not work out for the best at all. I've gone through hell trying to juggle multiple people or play like I knew what I was doing, getting in the game, just stepping out here, doing whatever I wanted to do, smoking and drinking and having different people come in and out throughout the week. I had a schedule, a routine. I had one person come over on Monday, have the other person come over Tuesday, the other person come over on Wednesday, and that's how I wanted it, and it worked until it didn't work. And when it didn't work, the part that didn't work outweighed what actually worked. So everything that I thought was fun, I got paid back double my portion. So I would never glamour, I would never glorify or put that on a pedestal like it's something to be celebrated. It's not a relationship. You have the choice and you have the option to do it if you do so. But there are ramifications that come behind it. And I'll turn it back over to Ian, and I'll let you guys say whatever you need to say before we land this plane.
So yeah, I agree with you with the most part about how, especially like reality TV and social media will glorify all this stuff when in reality there's a bunch of other thing that goes on behind the scenes. And I feel like another big problem with how, well, with like monogamy as a whole, it's so much easier to cheat or want to try and get involved with more people now than it was before, especially with social media. I mean, you can barely go through an Instagram or TikTok page without seeing, some girl in a bikini or whatever. So it took something that was, I guess kind of ish hard at first, and it just times it by 100. So that's probably, I would say that would be another big thing as to why most people fall down that rabbit hole of wanting to experiment with different people, different things. And like you were saying about how, man, we don't really have like a set person or, model, whatever, to look up to avoid certain mistakes. So essentially it's kind of just like a big trial and error thing, and you have to almost kind of, I guess, calculate it, for lack of better words, to try and avoid bad outcomes or try and limit the amount of mistakes that happen, and learn from everything that you go through in reality.
Okay. Um, I listened to everybody, and I thought this was one of those, again, another thoughtful, respectable conversations. And me being the only woman on the panel, being able to see where everybody's coming from is basically something that I could see when I was younger as well. And so, yes, it is going to be trial and error. No one is saying that, it's not going to be. It's about, can you handle being with one person? And like Wicked Low said, that there are people, because even I know people who got married right out of high school and are still together, and so they were on, and it's beautiful to see when you're like, wow, you were 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and you were able to go ahead and get married. And maybe it's because, yes, my generation, marriage was still a big thing. And what I mean by that is that it was something that you knew that you went into, and you don't take it lightly to get a divorce. So explore, know yourself, get to know what's going on and what it is to be a man, um, that can lead. And again, it's not about beating your chest because you're like, yes, I am a man, and what I say goes. But once you are comfortable with who you are, and then you're able to get the woman that you need, because we have a different take on needs and wants. You may want the one that looks like this, and this, but are they giving to you emotionally? So you have to be able to be discerning on, okay, are they going to be for me? And yes, they're going to be somebody else that's going to look better than me. So I can't be insecure either. But it's just the way that he would conduct himself, and be able to say, you know what, okay, and I've had that experience before, where being with someone that actually, like, wait a minute, you're just not, I mean, I could say 98, 99% you're not cheating, because that was their personality. They didn't want to be with a lot of people. So yes, we got the consequences. We should know the consequences. A lot of people act like they don't understand the consequences, which I don't understand, because I'm like, okay, you have more information out here of having babies by different people and stuff like that, and spreading your spirit thin, spreading your time thin, and then being upset about different things that might be going on with the different types of relationships, when really it was, okay, I don't even think that people were friends first. And that's really when you get to know somebody, is when you look at it in a way where, okay, let's just say 80% of what I need is in this woman, then by all means, because yeah, she's going to fall short on something, just like a man. We fall short on certain things that we may want in a relationship, but it's about taking care of the need. And when we go from that perspective and saying, okay, I want to be with you because I need a strong woman with me to make these things happen, and we're on the same page. So I hope that more people can look at that and say, okay, let me think first before I do things, because too many people have had kids by somebody that they're not sure that they're going to want to be with. But let's just, for me, end it on a thing that do explore, do get to know, learn from your mistakes, and go and get what you need out here in a partner, and not so much of all the wants, as far as the desires, to fill the lust, to fill something in the moment. And for women to be able to say, hey, okay, here's a good guy, I'm not going to screw him over and damage him because I don't know what I'm doing. So it's fair to say that from me, I have to look at it from both perspectives, and what I taught my son how to be, and what's going on out here, and seeing that he's very responsible. seeing how he's just not dating a whole lot of, different ones and kinds and all of that, it makes me say, okay, the next generation, there is hope for them to find what real love is, and it's just not everything magical. You're going to have to put in work. You're going to have to understand that you're going to have to be responsible and look at it from not just that moment, but for a lifetime. And, so that's where I yield. Thank you, gentlemen.
So I feel like Christy and Lowe both made some really good points. I think that about how not everyone needs a whole lot of experience, right? Like you're more than capable of meeting somebody who has lifelong partner potential in high school. I think that's, I think that's incredible. I respect people who can be confident about what they want and commit to it that early. I think I'm more like Mel in this regard, where we, have experience of having a roster, and like I think I can only speak to my own experience, but I feel like everyone needs a level of experience according to where they're at. And I think that for me, I was coming from a place of deep insecurity where I sought that experience because I felt like I was missing something and I needed to prove it by demonstrating that I could do this, that I could get with women, that I could have relationships. I feel like had I been more secure, been more confident, much less of that experience would have been necessary to get me to the, I guess, the conduct and confidence that I've arrived at today. I think that some people are always going to insist on learning things the hard way, and I'm one of those people. So I'm not here to judge, but I do like this idea of experience being an option and not a requirement. And that's really all I got to say about it.
I have one final question. Um, this question, I'm gonna make a, I'm gonna take a poll for it. Pause if necessary. No diddy, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna make um a thing in on social media for it. The people who are watching and everyone up here. Here's my question. You can comment down below. You can comment later. My question is, if you only had one sexual experience your entire life, would you even care or be curious to step outside of that relationship? Would you even care to know about any other experiences outside of only having that one?
Honestly,
Let's start with you, Lo, because you.
second. Um, it depends on the person. It just depends on the person. You can have that mind where that's all you need. You can both have that mind where that's all you need. It happens. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say as much for it today. Maybe, maybe not. But I'm just saying that it can happen. Um, people have had one sexual partner and they're fine just like that. You know what I mean? You gotta think this is a large, large world, and we got billions of people on here, and there's different scenarios and possibilities everywhere. So people are pretty sure, rest assured, if you thought that somebody's done it, there's nothing you wanted to see. Pretty much. You know what I mean? So yeah, yeah, it can happen. It can happen.
I'll turn it back over to Ian, and then we'll go to Christy and Aaron. I'm genuinely curious. I really want to know, like, and I appreciate your answer, bro. I really want to know because it's almost like people just got so addicted to it. But what if you just only experienced it with one person? Would it even matter if there were other people?
Oh, last thing. I promise. Last thing. It also depends on y'all connection, your chemistry. That's my fault. Turn it over. I forgot to say that. Yeah, it also depends on the chemistry and how you two are that intertwined. So that's it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like, um, going back to what a few people have said throughout the show, with you know people like start dating in high school and then just last throughout. Um, I feel like more especially now, I think that I don't want to say frowned upon, but I guess in a sense it is, because especially like even me, like I've witnessed it firsthand where people won't have like a lot of sexual experience and they'll get like, I guess, shamed for it, for lack of better word. So it's like, oh, if you're not doing this, then blah blah blah. Especially in high school, because everybody wants, it's all about experiences, like we've been talking about throughout the show. But I feel like what Lo said, as long as like it really does depend on the chemistry and how connected you feel with that person, because sex is supposed to be a bond and connection with somebody. It's not something that like, oh, we can just have sex and not talk to each other and blah blah blah. Like that's why for me, like that whole hookup culture shit, it's ridiculous. I'll never understand that. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of backlash that certain people can get, especially at certain age groups, if you're still a virgin or not have a lot of sexual experience. And it's a societal pressure at like a certain degree, right? So it kind of just has to deal with, if you're strong and or secure enough to understand that, like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna go out and do what the majority is doing, but hopefully in the end, like, it'll help me when I want to find another partner. So that's kind of where I'm coming from it. So yeah.
Yes, I wanted to say something about what Eric said, and what also we're just talking about right now, which is, can people get to that place where they stop just chasing people. And I understand that, because I didn't think that I would be in a relationship. That was not my goal, ever to be in a relationship, because first of all, I wanted to enjoy myself as far as the career that and my career path that I had headed, towards. So it was wild, because the way that came about for me help me to understand that this person that I was with, that I really just did not know well enough, and the child is what makes me stay, you know what I mean, and made me draw closer into wanting to do something. Because had I not had my first child, then that wouldn't have been a thing for me. I got into sex for the wrongest reason, and so I got to appreciate what exactly it is that was going on, because I just think that for me, it probably would have been more of an exploration going on. until I found the right person. And as far as what Ian said, I was a virgin and I remember the pressure. I think what got to me was that after my parents died, my sisters were very much pressuring me. And I folded under that weight because I did learn from my father and my mother how to conduct myself, how to keep myself. Particularly my father was teaching me how to make sure that I was grew up in the being a lady, and not giving it away, being upfront with me. So that way, and understanding consequences. So that way you go out there and you do your best. So for me, all I want to say at the end is that if a person, yes, if you think that nobody thought of cheating, if they were somebody like a childhood sweetheart and they, something else was going on, there may be chemistry between somebody, but once again, it comes down to that's going to ruin my family. So no, I'm not going to do that temptation because that is going to be the consequences. They understand and they knew. And so in talking with my friends who have been married now 30 years, it's neat to be able to say to them, okay, what did you do when things got rough? And they were able to share, their different experiences of what they did. But the temptation was there, of course, to cheat. It was right there. I mean, you just don't have to sit up there and think that there's not going to be any temptation. It's about what you feel that you would act on. And is it worth jeopardizing your family for somebody, you know what I mean? Just for you to sit up there and be with somebody else because it's the shiny new object. So, and that goes for men and it went for the women that I talked to, and they were upfront with me on how how things were going. So for your question, Mel, yes, there's a temptation. And people would be lying if they said that for 30 years and they were never tempted, or 20 years, or 10 years, 5 years. Whatever, how many years they're together, you're going to have temptation. That's just the norm. That's going to might be even every day because of what people are wearing and, like, again, social media. So you have more access to seeing the things that excite you, that you like, that you're drawn to. It is about control. It is about saying, what do you have in this life, and value the respect that comes with the love, the trust. The whole moral system comes into play where you're like, but no, you know what I mean? Beautiful woman, and that's to be expected with a man, that they see a beautiful woman. Okay, women shouldn't be too insecure about that. If a man sits up there and and just happens to just look at a, not gawk and do all that, but look, and he can appreciate somebody that's okay, yeah. But does that mean getting with them and sexually, or fantasizing over them, so much while you're having sex with me? That's something that people can say that they've done, and they knew that at a certain point it was taking over, and they had to, they went through therapy, they went through, going, just a retreat or something, to get their minds, to be able to say, okay, look, this is what I need to do because I want this relationship. I need this relationship because this is so much more beautiful, again, than just somebody that you can see and look at and then say, wow, I would love to have sex with that person, and not confuse love and lust. So I yield.
I'm with Christy on this one. I think that in hindsight, it would be easy for a person to look back and say, if things had worked out with, my very first love, and that would be the only sexual experience I ever needed. I think my experience in knowing myself, who I am as a person, and the harsh consequences that I've always needed to change my behavior, I'm going to say that with that in mind, I don't think one person would have been enough for me back then, because I would have yet to have had the consequential experiences that taught me otherwise later. So, I mean, I I don't feel guilty about saying that, because I think it's statistically really unlikely that the first person you think you fall in love with is going to be the one for you. And I think it's normal to have your heart broken and or break hearts a couple times in the process. It is a really sad situation that sometimes your education has to come to at the expense of somebody else. But that's, I mean, if I'm being honest with you guys and myself, I don't think I could personally say that I would have been satisfied with one person at the beginning.
A lot of honesty, a lot of transparency, and a lot of experience we can gather here tonight. I just want to take that in for a second. It's not very often you get collective minds to come together to be able to just sit and be completely forthcoming with pieces of their life, especially for others to kind of dissect and look at from a different pair of eyes, you know. So just off of the strength of that alone, thank you everybody who came up, for sharing your views, for your thoughts, for your sharing your experiences. Uh, you will not get these type of conversations everywhere you go, even though I know that there are people who have this discourse in places, but it's kind of far in between. So I'm honored and I'm humbled that I am in a position to facilitate it at the current moment that I'm. Thank you for your time, for your wisdom, for your feedback. Thank you to everybody watching. Your comments did not go unnoticed. Greg, Mystic, Mike, to the viewership. I hope you got something out of it as well. Our opinions are ours based on our own upbringing and our own uh, paths that we chose throughout this walk we call life. Everybody has eventually crossed paths at some point doing one thing or another. I'm just fortunate and grateful that we crossed paths in the order that we did this evening. And Mr. Ian, for this to be your first time up here, I don't know if you've done this in other areas or nothing like that. This is actually our first time speaking face to face beyond, you know, social media and threads and things of that nature. But I want to say I take my invisible hat off to you, because not only did you show up, your cadence, your candor, the way that you presented and represented yourself up here was missing and is missing in a lot of people your age and younger, and we need more of this in these spaces. So I thank you for responding to my post. Aaron is another person that I got to take my invisible head off to as well, because just like you, he carries and conducts himself to such a place where anyone who wanted to be ignorant or cause any type of discord. They couldn't. There's just no denying, the maturity that is up here tonight. Wicked Low, Christy, same to you. Thank you. I
May I
appreciate
say
you,
something real quick to
especially
Ian?
being the only.
Uh, for Ian to be
Go ahead, go ahead.
18. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I wanted to say to Ian to be 18 years old and to have the views that you did, you carry a lot of wisdom. And I'm sure you've heard that you're wise beyond your years. So, and Aaron, I'm not sure what age you are, but I also understand that you come from a younger culture. And for me, it gives me a lot of sense of hope that our future is going to be bright because we have people who are representing from each generation that they're capable of understanding, that life is something that we are cherishing and we are getting into these deep conversations. And it was a joy to hear what you had to say because that's something that's very wise. So I commend you and I applaud everybody this tonight. You know what I mean? Thank you guys.
If you didn't catch this at the beginning of the show, make sure you spin the block on this. Before we close out, do any of you want to plug how they can you will find you if they want to keep in contact?
Yes. On Instagram, it's f.kristie. My first and last name is on here, so you can find me all throughout social media with my name on YouTube, Spotify for my spoken word album, and thank you again, Wicked Low. And so that's pretty much the basis of where you can find me, and I thank you in advance.
And same here, same here. Nice to meet you, bro. I'm sorry I came in late, but nice to meet you, Ian. Same here. It's Wicked Low. Basically, you can find that anywhere, even if you Google it. Wicked Low, and on Instagram it's at the real Wicked Low, and yeah, Spotify for the albums, YouTube, wherever you look me up, Facebook, wherever you make. And again, salute. Aaron, salute. Mel, salute. Christy, just salute. Ian, salute, bro.
Mel, Christy, Low, it was great to talk to y'all again. I just wanted to pay my respects. Ian, it was nice to meet. It was an interesting conversation. I'm glad I participated in. I heard some really great takes tonight, you guys. Looking forward to another one. If you want to check out some of my music, you can find me at Airbear Music on all platforms. That's AIIRBEAR Music, pretty much everywhere. That's it.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for having me on tonight. It was a pleasure to meet you all, and it was a lot of interesting takes, and glad that we all listened to each other and got our points across, and we're able to build off of each other. And outside of that, if anybody wants to talk to me on any other social media platform, the best one would probably be Instagram. It's just Ian Williams with 2 S's at the end and underscore.
Do your boy a favor. Hit that thumbs up, man, and get this in the algorithm, man, so we can get more eyes on this. We will be back tomorrow. The Attic virtual open mic returns. And then Saturday, the after hours, 9 p.m. Pull up. We got some stuff to talk about. But I hope you all have a blessed evening, each and every single one of you. God bless. This is Assembly Excellent signing out.
Peace.